Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And if ever there's a fail, Glasgow City Council have just hit the biggest one of all. We know how desperately anti-car they are. They know that they've brought the GLEZ in, the Glasgow Low Emission Zone, simply not to clean up the air, because the air was perfectly clean until they brought it up. But it was simply a way of taxing poor people. It was deliberately aimed at hitting those least able to pay, and so it was an anti-poor tax. That's basically what it's amounting to. And of course, they've got several different lawsuits going on, amongst them, not least of which, of course, is the one that their air was never dirty, and therefore there was no legal reason to bring this in. We need that one to go through so that it can be taken away. And it follows then that there's also so many sort of exceptions and loopholes. And they're using one of the London loopholes as well. Somebody's going to bring this up, because although it says that there's a low emission zone, it doesn't mention that there's a charge, and therefore a charge cannot technically be applied. Now this was a case one in London against the London zone, and that also though is going to be tested in court in Glasgow. However, that's not what we're talking about in this. That's not the fail. They're just different fails. That's not the fail we're talking about here. The fail we're talking about here is that ever since they brought in the low emission zone, emissions have increased by 10%. It's got worse. The air quality, of course, has got worse. And of course, the reason they've got worse is that they aren't doing this based on the emissions of cars. They're doing it on the age of cars. And so you can have, like I say, a very old car that is incredibly clean. It's not allowed to go in, but a big 6.3 litre Mercedes, because it's new, is. It's very weird, isn't it? Mind you, the biggest of them all, of course, is buses and lorries. They need to sort that out. They're the biggest polluters. But we'll take a look at this piece to see why, yet again, an SNP-led council has failed on a magnificent scale. Here goes. So, Glasgow LEZ failure as emissions rise. 10% since the policy began, and the council is blaming the weather rather than blaming its own stupidity in allowing huge cars entrance to the city. Glasgow City Council has blamed the weather for an increase in harmful emissions. I can't see how the weather increases the emissions from a car. Please explain what weather has got to do with emissions from a car, because especially as you're not actually measuring emissions. How do you know it's from the cars? Anyway, this is after the controversial and very controversial introduction of the scheme. Where there's a scheme, there's always a schemer. Traffic emissions have seen a rise of about 10%. They can't say that. They're not measuring emissions. They cannot say it's emissions. Anyway, air quality may have got worse by 10%. That's an entirely different thing. Anyway, that's since the introduction of Glasgow's low emission zone, or what should we call poor car zone, sparking outrage amongst businesses once again. Nitrogen dioxide levels in cities Hope Street, the hotspot for the worst air quality, were found to be an average of 34 micrograms per cubic metre between June and August, 9.7% higher than the same period last year when it was 31 micrograms. The legal limit is 40 micrograms. So it's got to the worst ever, and this is the thing, it's got to the worst ever level of pollution in the city, which is 34 micrograms per cubic metre, which is 6 micrograms below the legal maximum, or the legal maximum, which means it's still 15% short. Yeah, it's only 85% of the legal maximum, and that's in one particular area, Hope Street, and obviously where the bus stations and things are, and it's still well within the legal limit. There is no reason, of course, for this ULEZ zone. It's got nothing to do with air quality, and of course it's not cars being right next and near to the bus station. There's obviously one reason, and one reason only, why the air quality there is bad. It isn't cars, is it? Being right next to that bus station. Oh no, boyo. It's buses. Maybe you should ban buses from the town centre. Levels of another pollutant emitted by motor vehicles, known as fine particulate matter, surged by 11% over the same period, from 5.2 to 5.8 micrograms per cubic metre. Still well below the maximum. The revelations have added insult to injury, says one business, hit hard by the policy, while experts say with buses being the biggest polluters by far, targeting cars should be questioned. Ta-da, just said that. Big brains, we just worked that out together. Meanwhile, the council says the weather is to blame for the spike and the verdict is still out on the effectiveness of LEZs. And therefore, you're saying then that this low emission zone has got nothing to do with vehicle output and everything to do with, when you're measuring the emissions, it's got nothing to do with vehicle output, it's everything to do with weather. Why don't you charge the weather some money? Do you know, oh look, it's raining, let's charge the weather, let's issue a charge notice to the rain or something, because that's effectively what you're doing. No part of the city is anywhere even near the maximum permitted, and the highest point you're measuring is right by the bus station, because buses are the biggest polluters. So why target drivers? It's cash, isn't it? That's the only reason. If you're truly talking about clean air, you'd target the buses. But they're hard to charge, aren't they? Dearie me. It is a cynical attack on poor people, because only poor people will be paying this. And it just goes to show the Marxists in the council, they're not really working for the benefit of the people of Glasgow, are they? They're working for the benefit of themselves. It's just this is a cynical cash grab by a desperate council that's overspent in so many different areas. Experts said buses and coaches are to blame for the bulk of the harmful emissions targeted by low emission zones. However, they have been involved in a similar scheme since 2018 and yet somehow haven't cleaned their act up. The air quality expert, who did not wish to be named, told the Scottish Mail on Sunday buses aren't the main polluters, hence the reason levels remain more or less the same as before. Therefore, you have to question the point of banning cars given all the cost, disruption and inconvenience. Nothing to do. It's all that. It's all that. Money, money, money. Graham Simpson, the Scottish Conservatives transport spokesman, said Glasgow's low emission zone has been ineptly introduced and imposed. Those affected will be asking serious questions, given it appears to have little to no effect on air quality. And if the figures are worse, that has to be seen as a failure. It's had a huge effect on businesses, and at the very least the public deserve is that the environmental benefits outweigh the economic costs. And they clearly don't. Now, Bill Patton, or William Patton, he's a car and engineer, mechanic and that. He works within the low emission zone. Now, he's bringing the council to court because he's saying that at no point was the air quality ever bad enough to warrant it. He's saying that there's damage to his business and other businesses, all based on basically a fallacy that the air was bad. And if he can prove that in court, that there was no need for a low emission zone, then of course it's failed and it has to stop. And if they really want to target air quality, it's buses and coaches that they need to target. It's not cars. This is basically hitting poorer people, the ones who can't afford to change their cars. It's a bigoted tax. It's an anti-poor tax. That is without doubt what this is. The low emission zone is without doubt a failure. The people who implemented it know it's a failure. They knew from day one it was nothing to do with cars. They knew from quite some time it was the buses that were causing it, but they can't raise money off buses. They can only raise money off cars. That's why they did it. It's illegal. They need to lose this court case. They need to take all those signs down. You see here, you're entering this low emission zone. Nowhere on there does it say that there's a charge. That sign is illegal. And also, if you go into the highway code and look, that sign isn't there. That is a meaningless sign. It's not in the highway code, and therefore anyone who gets the fine has multiple grounds to fight it and to clear it and to have any fines that has been imposed reinstated backward to them with interest. And that will teach these idiots in government, in local government, in councils, up and down, because Edinburgh's next, and Dundee, Aberdeen. It'll teach them all, don't screw with us. We are many, you are few, and we will win, because we have right on our side. We have the most important thing of all. We have facts. And of course, they absolutely hate facts. I shall finish here, and I shall come up. There you are. Once again, facts defeating politics. The SNP really are a bunch of useless tossers, aren't they? But this is quite clearly, it's cynical, it's cash grab, it's got nothing to do with air quality. We've seen that before. And it's confirmed by the fact that air quality has gone down since the implementation, because it wasn't ever the cars that were causing the problem. It's the buses. And as I say, the worst ever reading they've had is right by the bus station. Well, go figure. Go figure that. Tells you all you need to know. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching this video. You see, the truth, it comes out. And we like to bring you the truth, which is why I ask, if you can, please hit that subscribe button to keep on hearing the truth. The one thing that drives the SNP bonkers. Hit the button, hear the truth, spread the news. Thank you very much. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. And remember, the SNP don't care about air quality. They just care about getting the money out of your pocket. Bye.